more people who are a part of your team, then you're a leader. If there's just you and one other person, you don't have a team yet, you have a partnership. And team ministry begins with partnership. And that's why I believe in FGFNA. That's why I'm a member, not because I'm a Native American, but I understand their history. I understand their challenge. I understand their unique calling, and I want to support them. I believe in Bill and Edie. I believe in the concept of FGFNA, and I believe it has a role to play. You're not the only organization. You're one of many. But you do have a unique calling, and you have a unique role to play in what's going to happen. The Native American was the first mission field that the infant church established 500 years ago. However they approached it, they had to reach these people. Lots of mistakes were made, but they still felt we need to reach these people with the gospel. I think one of the mistakes they made was they didn't investigate how much they already knew about it. They made some assumptions that they didn't know anything about it, and so we had to tell them everything. See, if you want to be a great leader, learn to ask good questions. You don't lead by making statements. You lead by asking questions. Great leadership starts with passionate listening, not with passionate speaking. You listen with your heart, not just your head. The 4 Gospels cover 13 and a half days in the life of Christ. That's all the 4 Gospels cover. You think it covers, every day for 3.5 years. It's only 13 and a half days. During those 13 and a half days, he asked 383 questions. Somebody went to the trouble to add them up. Jesus asked more questions than he made statements. And one of the mistakes, I believe, that got us where we are in our association with those who owned the land before we got here was we came in making statements and giving our knowledge without listening to the people who had been here for hundreds of years before we arrived. And we're still not listening. We need to listen. Because once you start making statements, you have to defend those statements. That's why Jesus made statements. But he made statements only at the appropriate time. But he led by asking questions. I owned an RV dealership for 3 years, and the salesmen were taught, do not let the customer start asking questions, because when you do, they control the conversation. That's why Jesus always asked questions, because he wanted to control the conversation. We argue with one another over our statements. People can't argue with your question. We're waiting to make our next statement, and we need to be praying about what question to ask based on their response. Whom do men say that I am? Who do you say that I am? You say you're the Son of God. No, that's what you said. Ask questions. Great leadership starts with asking questions and listening with your heart. See, great leaders only have to know how to do 3 things, and I teach this all over the world. You only have to know 3 things to be a great leader. Number 1, you have to know what to do next. Not as it relates to the management of what's already created. You have to know what to do next that gets you one step closer to the vision. Is there not a cause? We know there's a cause. Is there not a man? Ezekiel 22, verse 30. I sought for a man to stand in the gap and make up the wall. There's a great gap between the Native American community and those that are in power and authority. And God is not looking for another white person to provide a solution to a 500-year-old challenge. He's looking, as Brother Ward said last night, God is looking among the Native American community for people who will stand up and say, I'll pay whatever price needs to be paid, but I believe we can solve our own problems if we are given a chance to create our own future. But I want to encourage you, if you have not defined that future, see, you can't do what matters until, first of all, you define what matters clearly. You don't have an hour to talk to everybody about your dream or your vision. You may only have 3 minutes in the world that called the elevator speech. You must be able to share your heart from the time you get on the elevator till you get to the 12th floor. You should have been able to share your dream and your vision. If you can't state your dream and your vision in 100 words or less, then it's not clear and concise enough. You have to be able to say it in a short amount of time. Give the average missionary 3 hours, he can fill it up. Tell them, you've got 5 minutes to tell your story. They fall apart unless they've learned how to be that concise. You have to, is there not a man? You have a cause. The cause for David was not Goliath. The cause for David was the glory of the Lord. Goliath simply got in the road. You have a lot of stuff in your road. But the stuff is not, as Bill said, the stuff is not your cause. The glory of God in the Native American community is the cause. We don't need men to constantly tell us the history. You need men and women to tell you the future.
That's right.
The future.
That's right.
See, as long as you keep putting your problem in the past, it remains a part of your future. But when you resolve your issues today, they become a part of your past, and they're no longer a part of your future. I think any intelligent human being that's studied it all knows what the problem is. America's got far more problems today than it's ever had. And I believe, as the speaker said last night, that the Native American community, who's been kicked to the curb for 500 years, is now being positioned. But you must know your position. Once you know who you are, is huge. You must find your position. I sought for a man not just to stand anywhere, but I sought for a man to stand in the gap. What is the gap? The gap is not the past. The gap is how you have to close where you are to the future. But you have to have a plan. Habakkuk 2:2. He said to Habakkuk, write the vision. Write it. I deal with leaders all the time. Tell me your vision. And they want to start speaking. I said, no. Show me. Write it out for me. Tell me in 2 or 3 sentences what the mission is, what your vision is for what God's called you to do. If you can't write it in 2 or 3 sentences, work on it until you can get it in 2 or 3 sentences. It can't be a book. For he says, write it and make it plain. Why? So that busy people, I call it God's first billboard. Busy people running by FGFNA. On every piece of literature, on your website, wherever you express your mission and vision. Busy people who don't have a lot of time. But God will grab those who can help you. Many will see it, but some will be arrested by it and come alongside and say, I see it, I hear it, I want to be a part of it. Don't be like the man who kept hollering, God, I need your help, I need your help, I need your help, day after day. And finally, God had enough and he hollered back, with plans no bigger than yours, you don't need my help yet. There's a fine line between fanaticism and faith. And only those who hear from God on a consistent basis know how to walk in between fanaticism and faith. He can do that which is exceedingly abundantly above all that we can ask or think, but he's waiting for us to write it down. He's waiting for us to write it down. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want it? So you'd like to have it, but how bad do you want it?